ABC 10 News at 4 starts now.
Just into the newsroom, the latest ruling from a San Diego judge and what it means for local restaurants. Plus, the latest on a second COVID-19 vaccine, the news that brings us one step closer. That breaking news tonight, a San Diego judge just clarified his bombshell ruling from yesterday over the opening of local strip clubs and how that affects restaurants. Good evening, I'm Lindsay Pena in for Kimberly Hunt. ABC 10 News reporter Jennifer Kastner listened in on this last-minute hearing, and she joins us live tonight. Jennifer, this hearing came after there were major questions and confusion about what exactly restaurants were allowed to do after yesterday's decision.
Yes, Lindsay, a lot of confusion over all of this. The judge, though, clarified his ruling within about the last hour or so, saying that this does affect all San Diego restaurants. He told this to the courtroom again just about an hour ago. Listen.
All businesses which provide restaurant service, meaning all restaurants in the County of San Diego, are encompassed within the scope of the court's order. It's not limited to plaintiffs who also provide restaurant service, but it is intended to encompass all restaurants within the County of San Diego.
So giving you some background, the lawsuit was only filed over strip clubs. The ruling came down late yesterday from Judge Joel Woolfield, who wrote that the owners of Pacers and Cheetahs can stay open while their case against the county and the state moves through the courts. The judge decided there is no evidence that these clubs have led to increased spread or risk of COVID-19. That part of the ruling was clear, but what was unclear was how that decision affected restaurants, and that's because the judge then wrote that the ruling applies to businesses with restaurant services like the strip clubs have, provided they follow safety protocols that are no greater than is essential to control the spread of COVID. As you heard today, the judge clarified that his ruling encompasses all San Diego restaurants. That's a huge development. San Diego County officials said last night that because of this ruling, they wouldn't enforce restaurant restrictions until they got more clarification from the judge, which we now have. Today, we learned that the San Diego County Board of Supervisors is holding an emergency closed session meeting tomorrow over all of this. And this morning, the governor's office wrote to ABC 10 News about the initial ruling, stating, "While we are disappointed, we remain steadfast in our commitment to protecting the health and safety of all Californians. Our legal team is reviewing options to determine next steps." Reporting live tonight, Jennifer Kastner, ABC 10 News.
Thank you, Jen. And we still have to wait and see how county supervisors will react to today's announcement. ABC 10 News reporter Mimi Alcala shows us some restaurant owners are taking the opportunity to reopen, even if it's short-lived.
Well, I was thrilled to hear the judge's ruling.
Excitement and confusion. That's what many restaurant owners felt after hearing the county has suspended enforcement activities for now.
We know the county's not going to enforce, but I'm not sure if ABC, which holds our alcohol licenses, or others choose to keep enforcing.
Julian Hakeem is the co-owner of the taco stand with locations in downtown San Diego, La Jolla, Encinitas, and North Park. He's cautiously optimistic and now offering minimal outdoor dining.
I'm still prepared for anything. There really isn't any evidence that sitting outside is contributing to the COVID cases. I think there's evidence about people being inside. I would agree with that, and I wouldn't open inside just yet.
We're not trying to defy what the state and the county mandate.
Mia Davis co-owns Miko Sushi with locations in Escondido, Carlsbad, and Vista. She says since moving back to takeout orders only, she had to furlough 70% of her employees. After hearing about the ruling Wednesday night, Thursday she made the decision to reopen her outdoor patios and also indoor dining at 25% capacity.
We debated actually, should we really open right now or not? But after thinking through overnight, many of our employees need jobs. This is right before Christmas. And, they need to put the food on the table.
Both Davis and Hakeem say they have many safety precautions in place, and they're following what happens next closely.
We take this COVID-19 seriously, and we know the cases are increasing, and we just wanted to follow the rules.
Mimi Alcala, ABC 10 News.
A little rain is hitting parts of the county this afternoon. It's time to check in with meteorologist Angelica Campos. Hi, Angelica.
Hi, Lindsay, and depending where you're in the county, you might have already seen It may be a few drops, and for some others, maybe nothing yet. But we expected this to be a very light event. As we take you live now to Cardiff, you can see it is just a gorgeous afternoon in this part of the county. So let's see what's happening everywhere else. There's that front moving through. As we zoom out and switch this over to our Pinpoint Doppler live, there's a little bit of green showing up, but most of it is just scattering happening at this hour. We will have to zoom in different parts of the county to find whether or not any of this is actually reaching the ground, but it's very, very light. And depending on the angle of the radar, sometimes it's not even able to capture it. But we do know the chance will continue as its front continues moving across the area. It is now starting to push through San Diego, and from now until at least 8 o'clock, we will have a chance for a passing shower. Coming up, we'll break it all down hour by hour and also timing the next warm-up heading our way.
All right, thanks, Angelica. Just in this afternoon, a second COVID-19 vaccine moved closer to joining the U.S. fight against the pandemic. That's after the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine won the backing from a U.S. expert panel. This paves the way for the final FDA decision on emergency use.
Data from Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine late-stage trials found that it was 94% effective at preventing severe COVID. Of the 15,000 people who got the vaccine, only 11 got COVID, and no cases were severe. About 20% of participants were Hispanic or Latino, and 10% were Black.
And it's extremely important that the public understands this, that there's no way that they can get COVID from these two vaccines.
The president of the American Nurses Association, 62-year-old Ernest Grant, was one of those participants. Grant believes he got the Moderna vaccine, not the placebo, because of the brief fatigue and chills he experienced after the second dose. He says he wasn't hesitant in testing a vaccine developed so quickly for several reasons. Scientists had the virus DNA very early and were able to replicate the protein. Also, he says companies and countries were transparent in sharing information, and there was enormous funding that made the process faster. Grant was also encouraged by the number of volunteers who quickly answered the call for trials, and he wanted to make sure people of color were represented.
Try to help alleviate some of the fears and consternation that may be prevalent in the Black and brown community. And, so just sort of hold myself up as an example of, a successful, candidate in the clinical trials.
I have looked at some of the data from Moderna. The antibody levels are so much higher than what any patient gets in an infection with this disease.
Harvard scientist and Dr. Shiv Pillay knows the people who started Moderna. He says the company originally looked at messenger RNA to treat diseases like cancer and quickly realized it could be used in vaccines. Moderna was already working on a vaccine for the MERS coronavirus when COVID-19 hit, so they were ahead to begin with.
You can be pretty sure this will work. And secondly, you can also be confident that if you have a problem, it's only going to come from this one protein. That's all you need to be worried about.
Today, FDA advisors also discussed allergic reactions to the Pfizer vaccine. One middle-aged healthcare worker in Alaska suffered an anaphylactic allergic reaction similar to what we saw happen to 2 people in the UK. She had increased heartbeat, shortness of breath, and was treated with Benadryl and IV epinephrine. At this point, there are no changes happening on recommendations for the vaccine.
And as the vaccine rollout continues across the country, more frontline workers in San Diego are getting shots today. We're also finding what precautions like mask wearing and social distancing San Diegans plan to maintain once they get the vaccine. In an ABC 10 News Union Tribune poll, we surveyed 280 San Diegans who plan to get the vaccine. 76% say they would continue wearing masks and social distancing for the foreseeable future. 10% say they would stop all precautions after the required 2 doses. 7% said they haven't been taking any precautions during the pandemic.